Tons of moves happening around the NFL. The 49ers aren't doing a lot. A little first round FOMO going on with no first round pick for the 49ers, and taking a look at the 2022 regular season strength of schedule. All that and more coming up on this episode of Winky Wednesday.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday evening if you are on the West Coast and watching this podcast on YouTube. If you've never seen the show on YouTube, come check it out and subscribe there as well. We have a lot of fun and do some live shows occasionally, or you might be on your way to work Wednesday morning. So you know what that means. It is a Winky Wednesday, so let's bring on today's guest.
Nick Winkler, come on down.
What's up?
The Wink is on fire.
Wink, what's happening, my man? Are you feeling like I'm feeling right now? Seeing that big Eagles Saints trade, and the 49ers made their big moves last year, and it was a crazy draft season. It's been a crazy calendar year for the 49ers and 49ers fans and covering the team on a daily basis. But now I'm feeling a little FOMO, missing out, I think. There's no moves to be made for the 49ers. The teams are going to be picking 2-3 times before the Niners are even on the clock at pick number 61, and we're going to have fun talking about those draft picks and breaking down what the 49ers could do there in the draft. And once they do select somebody, breaking all of the prospects down that become new San Francisco 49ers. But are you like me, Wink, and are you like Croc and I when we did our mock draft last week, that of the mindset that I don't think John Lynch is going to sit on his hands all Thursday night and then half of Friday before he makes a selection? I feel like the more 49ers got to get involved in some of this fun and maybe move up a little bit, even though they don't have a first round pick, maybe get into the 50s or the 40s or something like that. Do you feel like that you're missing out right now and not being able to look at all these first round picks and all the fun that's being had with all these trades and nothing going on with the 49ers?
I mean, I think we got a little spoiled last year, right? I mean, we were the darlings of the draft. We were like, what are the Niners going to do? They're trading all these picks. They're moving up. And yeah, so of course there's that feeling of wow, last year was so amazing. This is a little bit of a letdown. But you said it, man. John Lynch isn't going to just sit around. He never has. Like, he's always moving around. He's moving up. He's moving back. He's doing something. There's no way that the 49ers draft picks are going to work out exactly as they're lined up right now. Like, it's just not going to happen. That's not a John Lynch thing to do.
Was it really even fun? Was it fun, Croc, the last year? I don't know if fun is the right word. They used all their bullets to make a trade, but I'm not sure it was fun. It's been kind of weird, right? Is it worth it, Croc? Has the whole year been worth it? The whole Trey Lance move? It feels like the Niners are in a weird spot right now because, Garoppolo's still on the roster, and this is not a Jimmy G conversation, a Jimmy G episode here. But just looking ahead to Trey Lance, I think there's some excitement there, but it's also like hurry up and wait almost.
Definitely a tough situation. I think they kind of brought a lot of this on themselves. There were people that kind of foresaw some of this stuff happening. I think it was early on, Steve Young was like, hey, they win games with Jimmy Garoppolo, like things can get weird. And I think most people felt that way. But, I mean, it was always a very weird situation. Kyle Shanahan had one winning season in 4 years heading into year 5. The pressure was on to have some level of success again to kind of back up what they did in 2019. So I don't know. I don't even know how you can fix this aside from really just kind of cut bait with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think a lot of the conversation would stop focusing so much on Jimmy and what he meant to the team and move towards what can be the best situation for Trey Lance. And maybe that would give us more clarity in the situation and make us feel a little bit more comfortable about where they're at right now.
Wink, you feel good about where the 49ers sit right now? Do you think the 49ers are a better team in 2022 than they were in 2021?
No, not yet. I think they can get there. I think that they're probably right around where they were before. I don't like where the 49ers are right now because I wish they had done something with Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, that wasn't a possibility or they would have done it. You know, they definitely would have taken a day 2 pick, probably even a day 3 pick for Jimmy Garoppolo at some point. It just doesn't sound like one was available. That the shoulder surgery really just messed everything up. So to say that I like where the 49ers are at right now, I mean, I like the idea of Trey Lance going forward. There's a lot of promise there. There's a lot of excitement. You know, you're going to have a full season of Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. And you saw Ayuk come into his own last year. And there's a lot of stuff to get excited about, right? And the Ward signing on defense, like that's great. That felt like that was a good plug for them. But to say that I'm excited of their offseason, not so much. They still have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, right? I mean, that's a lot of money being
NFC Championship game quarterback, though. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
But you're not getting rid of Trey Lance, right? So you don't want to keep both guys another year. I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in.
You know what's weird is every other sport, it's like, oh man, look at our pitching rotation. We got an ace, we got a number 2 guy. In the NFL, it's like, oh, too many quarterbacks. It's like, oh no, we don't have a quarterback. And then it's like, oh no, we got too many quarterbacks. You can only have one, and that's it. It's really odd in the NFL how important that position is, right? But you only want one.
Yeah, but you get one, and it's like, okay, who's going to be my number 2? Okay, Andy Dalton's out there. Okay, yeah, here we go. It's like, oh,
everybody hates Andy Dalton until you have a different starter, and he's your number 2. It's like, oh, okay, I like Andy Dalton.
Right, yeah. Right. Oh, Blake Bortles is available? Bring him in.
Yeah, he just got released. I think he's on his way to the USFL as a backup, not the NFL as a backup. That's where Blake Bortles is right now. Sorry to the Bortles family if they're watching this podcast right now. Croc, do you think, because, there's some FOMO with the 49ers. Like, look, they already went and got their quarterback. But, man, when you look at what the Saints are doing, are the Saints positioning themselves to go get a quarterback and spending future picks and maybe even trading their 2 picks now that they have in the middle of the first round to go up and get Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis?
There are people that believe that's what's going to happen. Maybe a potential trade up to the New York Jets at 10. Maybe you can see that. Jets have 2 picks in the top 10. They can move one of those. The guy can go up and get a quarterback. I think the more interesting thing is, this is a class where a lot of people felt like there wasn't a first-round quarterback, and now you're talking about trading multiple picks to go get one in the top 10.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would much rather be where the 49ers are with, I think, a much better quarterback prospect, and we don't know what Trey Lance is going to be, than doing this. At least he was a legitimate first-round prospect and not forcing a second-round guy in, right? And like, you're the Carolina Panthers right now, and you're going to draft maybe Kenny Pickett at number 6 overall, and he's already kind of skittish in the pocket as a college player, and you don't have a really good offensive line around him. That's probably not going to end well, and your starting quarterback's already seeing ghosts there in Sam Darnold. And so really forcing these picks, and from that standpoint, it makes you feel really good about what the 49ers did, going all in on a good quarterback class instead of being forced to take a first-round quarterback when they're a bunch of second-round prospects this year. I feel good about that, at least. I don't know if you guys feel good. When I look at it that way, it makes me feel a lot better about not having a first-round pick, I think, if you're the 49ers.
Don't mind it, especially with it being picked 29 overall.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, like, being excited. I meant more so excited about leading up to the draft and, like, what the 49ers are going to do. And then the excitement of, like, getting Trey Lance, because, like you said, that's a really good quarterback prospect. That's a guy that you could build a franchise around. He's got all the tools. He hasn't shown a lot because he hasn't played a lot, but yeah, you look at what's out there right now. Okay, it makes me a little bit more excited about where the 49ers are at, because if you're looking for a quarterback right now with Jimmy Garoppolo, if they hadn't done the Trey Lance thing, right, let's just pretend that didn't happen last year, right? You're going in with Garoppolo. Are they looking to re-sign Garoppolo to another long-term deal? Are they going after one of these young quarterbacks? Are they trying to go get Sam Darnold? Like, there's not a lot of great options out there right now for the 49ers.
That's an element. I have not thought about that. Like, I have thought about, like, hey, if there were no Trey Lance, we wouldn't even be trying to push Jimmy Garoppolo out the door, right? It would be like, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, solid quarterback coming off an NFC Championship game. But I think most of us would say, damn, do you pay him another $150 million? And I didn't think about that.
You probably have to, right? The quarterback market's not great.
That's an interesting question. Hold on. I want to pause there because I want to talk a little bit more about that, because there's so many different things, not even with the 49ers, that in the league that would be different. If the Niners didn't make that move last year, teams that have made other moves. The 49ers, that pick from that would have been 29 has already changed hands multiple times, and so did pick 12, right? So let's get into some of that. I think that'd be fun. Dave Damashek used to do a thing on NFL Network called the NFL, and it would be like, what if the Colts drafted Ryan Leaf instead of Peyton Manning kind of thing, and like what would have changed. Yeah. And so I think we could do a little bit of that with the 49ers and the entire NFL and what could actually change if that didn't happen last year. And I want to talk about strength of schedule and maybe get into the mailbag a little bit. But first, I want to tell the folks out there about our newest sponsor, Shady Rays. You want premium, high-end sunglasses, but for not a lot of scratch? Well, Shady Rays is for you, an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. And I know everybody who wears sunglasses has had those that fell off, fell out of the car, you stepped on them or whatever. And all that money is right down the drain. So you can get some protection at Shady Rays with your new shades. It includes the lost and broken. So not just broken, but lost sunglasses as well. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happens. So give them a try. And if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing, as it's as simple as that. So 10 meals are also donated by, this is a company with a heart, right? You buy sunglasses, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, we've got a promo code Locked On. So get over to shadyrays.com and use promo code Locked On to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. 50% off, guys. That's code Locked On for the best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Make sure you're following Locked On NFL, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. And by the way, I might be making an appearance on draft weekend on the Locked On NFL YouTube channel as well. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Interesting question you brought up there, Wink, about Jimmy Garoppolo. And if the 49ers didn't trade up last year, and let's say they even just took a different position, or if they took, let's say no Trey Lance, no quarterback last year, and they stuck at 12, right? So pick 29 would be the 49ers. We'd be sitting in the back end of the first round. I don't think even the anti-Jimmy crowd that I think got louder because the Niners made a move for Trey Lance and a quarterback, I don't think they would be super amped at being like, oh, let's kick Jimmy Garoppolo out the door and draft Matt Corral at 29, right? I don't think I would feel that way.
No way.
How about this, though?
Changed everything.
But I think you actually have the luxury to do so, though. Like, I think if you were like, all right, we got Jimmy Garoppolo, we'll see. Okay, let's draft Matt Corral. Now, Jimmy G would be upset, I'm sure. But it would give him a chance to go out and prove, like, no, can you take us to higher heights? And if you can't,
right,
we'll let you go, or we could potentially franchise tag you or whatever, where you bring in somebody like Matt Corral, who has, and Peacock, you've talked about Matt Corral's arm and it not being the strongest, but I think he's fairly Jimmy Garoppolo-ish, but more athletic, right? So,
RPOs all day. I'm probably lower on Matt Corral than just about everybody. You know who would actually be more interesting is Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder might be the player we be talking about right now. Hey, if Desmond Ridder's on the board at 29, you draft him, sit him a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo this year. Garoppolo's last year of his contract. You have Desmond Ridder coming the next year.
Right. And it would be low pressure for him to be like the guy. Because right now, like the big thing with Trey Lance is number 3 overall. They used 3 first-round picks on him, right? The one that they used at 3 and the 2 that they traded away. So it's like there's so much pressure. And then NFC Championship, like there's so much pressure on him from that standpoint. Pick 29, there's not really much pressure on you. Like if you're good. I remember Geno Smith being drafted. He was one of the top picks in the second round, but there wasn't. I mean, there was pressure on him. He put on himself to be the guy. He felt like he should have been a first-round pick, but not the same type of pressure as a guy that's taken in the top 5.
We'd be arguing about, okay, do you take Ridder if he's there, or do you take Boye Mafe, the pass rusher, at the end of the first round? Do you just strengthen the team around Jimmy Garoppolo and go one more year with that? there'd be tons of conversation about what the 49ers can do. How about this? What about Tyreek Hill on the 49ers? Pick 29 is now in Kansas City. So either maybe Tyreek Hill is a Jet, right?
But I mean, let's talk about what a crazy world we're living in as 49er fans, right? I mean, we're talking about a quarterback who's gone to 2 NFC championship games in what, 5 years? Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
2 out of 3. Yeah. I mean, but as the 49er quarterback, like, and they're just like, you can go. We're good. We're going to try this young guy. Or like you said, if they hadn't drafted Lance last year, and then Jimmy leads them to another NFC championship game. Are they even talking about that? Or does he have a new 5-year, $150 million contract, and all of a sudden, they're drafting a guy in their 3rd or 4th round and maybe hoping that he turns into something 2 or 3 years from now, or are they not even addressing the quarterback at all? Is Nick Mullins not with the Raiders? Is he back with the 49ers as Jimmy Garoppolo's backup? Like, who knows?
We don't have time to go down the Nick Mullins universe.
I do believe this. At some point, Kyle Shanahan, will get in a position to where he feels like the Rams did with Jared Goff, where it's like, we're good, right? I mean, everybody talks about Jared Goff like he was just this trash quarterback for the Rams. He really was the equivalent to Jimmy Garoppolo, and statistically, he was better, but even the Rams were like, we need a little bit more. So they traded the house or traded multiple first-round picks and Goff away and ended up getting a Super Bowl out of it. Now, obviously, there were other moves that they made and maybe needed a Jaquiski Tartt drop interception, but ultimately, it ended up paying off, right? It ended up paying off.
Yeah.
And I think the 49ers would have always been trying to look for that more. I think we would have always, and we talked about this other day, I think we always would have looked for that more. Jimmy Garoppolo's solid quarterback. I still think he's a solid quarterback. But you watch those other guys and be like, if we just had a guy that can make that one more play.
Right.
Would Matt Ryan be a 49er right now?
Ooh.
With everything crazy. Would the 49ers have been in on Deshaun Watson? That would have divided the fan base a little bit, right? I mean, there's a lot of craziness that could have happened over the course of the last year. And when you think about it, if Trey Lance becomes what we hope Trey Lance can be, what the 49ers believed he could be when they drafted him, what we've seen some signs of, the 49ers are much better off than almost all these other teams we're talking about going up this year and drafting a guy. Better off than if the 49ers would have drafted Desmond Ridder at 29 this year, or if they would have ended up with, the death rattle of Matt Ryan's career, or, doing the Deshaun Watson stuff, or, Baker Mayfield. Would that have been a thing that the 49ers ended up with, right? There's a lot of paths.
Carson Wentz. Yeah. Who knows?
Wentz? Oh my God. There's a lot of paths. None of them are as good as what it could be for the 49ers if Trey Lance hits, which is why it's so important for the 49ers to make sure Trey Lance does hit.
Mm-hmm.
Strength of schedule. It's not going to be an easy road for Trey Lance if he is the starter this year for the 49ers. Warren Sharp does an interesting thing every year where he doesn't use his opinion on what the strength of schedule should be for teams. He just goes by the Vegas over-unders for win totals in 2022. And the 49ers have the 4th most difficult schedule in the NFL this year, because not only are they playing a difficult schedule in the NFC West, they're playing the AFC West this year. So that's 10 games against the NFC West and the AFC West. So that's only 7 other games, right? And they're playing. It was supposed to be an easy schedule because the Niners were supposed to be playing this 3rd place schedule, and it didn't really turn out that way. The only teams with a more difficult schedule are the Jets, Chiefs, and the Rams have a similar schedule, and all the teams in the for the most part in the NFC West have pretty difficult, and AFC West have pretty difficult schedules this year.
Yeah, it's hard to argue any of that. You look at the schedule and maybe the Seahawks, right? But it's like, even without Russell Wilson, do the 49ers figure out how to beat the Seahawks? Like, is this the time? Is this when it starts happening? Other than that, you don't like going up against any of those teams in the AFC West or your division rivals.
I don't know about you guys, but we were talking about the Saints and the Panthers. I'm rooting for the Seahawks to get one of those quarterbacks. I want them to overpay and waste a 1st-round pick on a bad quarterback that sets them back for a while, right? And I would hope that they draft a quarterback who turns out to be terrible. Like, that would be the best thing for the 49ers. Right? How funny would that be for what they've done to the Niners over the course of the last decade with Russell Wilson? They trade him away and then utilize one of those draft picks on a bad quarterback or just a middling quarterback. Actually, it'd be better if he was just good enough for them to hold on to long enough to really just, like 3 or 4 years of, oh, maybe he's going to be good this year. No, not like the Josh Rosen where they ripped the Band-Aid off, but more like, like maybe Bortles was with the Jaguars that just, hangs around for too long and they're just bad forever. That's what I'm rooting for the Seahawks.
Yes, please. I'll sign up for that.
Although, man, the way it's looking, the Panthers, maybe the Saints moving up. I don't know if a couple of those top quarterbacks are even going to get to number 9 at this point. I don't know what to think about this draft. It's going to be wild, and it always is. You think about the craziest mock draft. You always hear people where there'll be a mock draft thrown out there and be like, "Oh, you're an idiot." That will never happen. the real NFL draft is always way more insane than the craziest mock draft you're going to leading up, because we get to this group think, and these GMs and front offices, these are really isolated buildings that don't have those same groupthink ideas that we all have in the media and as fans, and we learn and see all the mock drafts and we really think that this is how it's going to shape up. And these people are on their own island with their own ideas, and they've got their own draft boards, and it's 32 different draft boards. And it is always so bizarre how these teams come to the conclusions they have. And sometimes that's how teams draft really poorly as well, because maybe they should just sort of like peek out the window and look at what the media is talking about and some other evaluations and go like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we don't need to draft AJ Jenkins at the end of the first round. He might be there in round 3, some of those types of things. So that's what makes the NFL draft so fun, because it's always bizarre and you never have any idea how it's going to go. And even after the latest trade with the Saints, it makes me less confident in knowing how the top of the NFL draft is going to go. So it's going to be fun, even though the 49ers don't have a pick.
Kind of sit back, put our feet up, and just kind of watch the chaos.
1 though is too far, right? Croc,
Yeah.
we gotta go up. John Lynch has got to move up. John Lynch will not wait until 61 to draft. I cannot see that happening.
I mean, but it's move up for who? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Who's falling that they're like, you know what? We just have to have this player. What position is that makes that much of an impact to them? Where they're like, that player makes a big difference in the way our team is viewed, because in the second round, that's kind of what you're looking for.
Last year, they moved up in the they moved down before they drafted Banks. Then they moved back up in the 3rd to draft Sermon. But they've kind of used up all their offensive. They're not going to trade up for a quarterback. They've got 2 starters. They already traded up for Brandon Ayuk. They already traded up for a running back and ended up with a 6th round starting running back. So they're not going to trade up for a running back. They've already got Kittle. They're not going to trade up for a tight end. So unless they're trading up for an offensive player, and most of the trade ups have been like to go get Kyle's guys, it feels like.
Traditionally, they trade up for receivers in the 2nd round, or I don't know.
Kyle's guys.
Yeah.
Debo was a 2nd round pick. Pettis was a 2nd round pick. And then the other 2 times they used like a 2nd, I think. Maybe
they traded up
pick. They traded up for Ayuk. They traded up for Foster.
Traded up for Foster. They traded up for Joe Williams. They traded up for CJ Beathard, I think, too, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I mean, that was like 4th round pretty much. I mean, I'm talking about like
that's where their best players come from. They shouldn't be wasting 5th round picks. When you look at it, not only did he draft a bad player, they wasted a potential George Kittle selection in the 5th round.
It's their money spot.
I mean, they darn near traded away that Kittle pick. What if that was the pick they traded away to go get CJ Beathard? Anyway, but it's funny because we're making fun of their trade ups, but I think they should trade up, but not for one of Kyle's guys, for one of Adam Peters' guys, a defensive player. Maybe a hybrid safety, right? A do-it-all safety that's dynamic, a pass rusher, maybe a wide receiver that's a difference maker that they don't think is going to fall to 61. Who knows? Maybe an offensive.
That's what I can see, because receivers in the 2nd round can still have a really good impact. Other positions, it's kind of like, we'll see. But what's been happening lately, like receivers in the 2nd round, they've been doing very well.
It's been a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's the one position where I'm like, if you trade up for that guy, like he'll have an impact.
And someone's going to fall. Do they fall all the way to 61 is the question. And maybe that's where you strike when it's cheap enough to just get up 10 spots and go get a guy at 51 instead of 61. As Croc and I did in our mock draft. Next, let's get to some listener questions. I want to talk about Built Bar first, though, because there are some fantastic flavors of Built Bars right now available at Built.com. Brownie, batter, puffs. How do they do this? How do they keep brownie, batter, puff protein bars at 140 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with 17 grams of protein and covered in 100% real chocolate. It's pretty unbelievable, the science behind what Built Bar is able to do and have an awesome consistency and a great tasting protein bar, the best tasting protein bar. Most Built Bars contain only 130 calories, 4 grams of net carbs, 4 grams of sugar. That's what you want. That's the combination you want. Low calorie, low sugar, high in protein, high in fiber to keep you satisfied and feel good about those treats that you're eating. So go to your secret hiding space and get rid of all the bad snacks for you and replace them with Built Bars. If you're not sure what flavor of Built Bar, you can get a mixed bar, a box of Built Bars as well. And you can get 15% off your first box of Built Bars with our promo code LOCKED15. All you have to do is go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. How about, here's a question from, this is the point of the offseason we're at. We're trying to annihilate the salary cap here. Josh via email. By the way, that email is lockedon49ers@gmail. I try to read all of them. It's hard to get back to all the emails, and sometimes they get a little too long. So if you want your email to get on the show, keep it short. That's why we usually go to Twitter instead of emails. But Josh says, hey, Peacock and Crocky. He doesn't mention week. Should we even go to this question?
Pass.
The disrespect of the Winky Wednesday. He says, what are your thoughts on eliminating the salary cap or going for more of a Major League Baseball salary cap for drafted players only and then having a separate hard cap for traded players or players signed in free agency? This would reward teams with good GMs and allow players to make more money with their drafted teams. And he ends with 49ers for life. Thank you for the question, Josh. What do you think? Should we get rid of the salary cap, guys, and allow teams like the 49ers that draft well and want to keep their superstars? You know, it allows you to go over the cap to keep, say, DeForest Buckner, right? Or to keep Deebo Samuel.
How does it work in baseball? I mean, I know they don't have a salary cap, but how well does that work in the sense of it being like an even playing field?
Not at all.
I mean, you look at a team like the Rays, though, they never spend any money and they're always in it. And they're in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, you know, with the Yankees and the Red Sox. So it can work. It's just, again, it goes back to rewarding a GM, right? If you can go get young guys, develop them well in your system and bring them up. That's the problem with the NFL, though, is there's no system like that. There's no minor league to bring these young guys up in. So they're like immediately in there. And, you know, if they don't pan out right away, it's mostly like, all right, you know, hit the trails, man.
The parity of the NFL is really one of the strong suits of the league. And while there are some teams in baseball like the Rays, you know, and occasionally, you know, you'll find one team here or there, and they really built up a good farm system, have a lot of young, cheap players and are really good for a while. Like you see this with the Oakland A's all the time, right? And they'll start to get pretty good, have a lot of young players. They ship them all off. I mean, that sucks for a fan base, right? So even if you do get good, we saw it with the Marlins back in the days. Remember, they went to the World Series and then shipped everybody off. The Giants got a few of their players. And so, you know, the Pirates are just bad constantly, right? And the Royals they're just behind, right? So it's really tough to be competitive for the smaller market teams when there's no salary cap. But I do understand the idea of keeping your own. And if there was a way to only go over the cap for your own players, I think that would be a positive development for the league. I don't know.
They've done that.
They'd be willing to do that, but
so I saw this, and I mean,
the NBA does that, right? The bird rights. The NBA has bird rights, so you can go over for your own players and sign above with those guys.
You just got to pay some luxury tax or something like that. But I do know this. In the NFL, I just heard this, and I was like, wow, I never heard this before. You can bring back a player on vet minimum, like against the cap, but actually pay him a little bit more. So like Jaquiski Tartt can come in, and you can pay him. You can actually pay him $1.3 million or something like that, $1.4 million, but it will only count as $1 million towards the cap. I saw something like that. I haven't fact checked it, but that would be kind of similar, but also that's vet minimum.
I do know that they only count 51 players toward the cap. So I don't know if that would affect enough, but still, I mean, you're only throwing, you know, $500,000 at a guy, you know, getting a little bit of a bonus. It's not enough to keep one of your top young players from leaving, you know, to keep your own. But because when you do draft and develop well, you want to be able to keep those guys. And so the Major League Baseball system does suck for that, because teams like, you know, I feel, look, no love lost for the A's. You know, since 1989, A's beat the Giants in the World Series, the Earthquake Series. I've hated the A's ever since. I want to set fire to anybody who has the split San Francisco Giants, Oakland A's caps. Have you seen those? That is the worst cap.
Of course.
Can't stand it. But I feel bad for A's fans, right? Because they didn't do anything wrong, and they get these superstar players, and you're like, hey, Matt Chapman's a really great young player. Maybe we can build a championship team around him. It's like, nope, we just sent him to Toronto. It's like, come on, man, you can't build a fan base, you can't build a team like that. So, in the end, I think that's parity rules, and you just got to keep it this way. And the owners love being able to keep salaries in total down a little bit, even though that's climbed quite a bit. And I think that might be driving what's going on with all the really aggressive teams now, because the salary cap has been raised enough to where teams aren't in that salary cap hell and aren't in the terrible situations that some of the teams got into in the early 2000s. And I think maybe the league got a little bit too dependent on draft picks, where now teams are looking at draft picks like, well, man, these are coin flips, and we have the cap space now. And there's the cap has grown so much that we can fit more high salary players in, and there's other ways to collect draft picks and draft middle round guys rather than just first rounders all day. So that's what we're seeing with teams like the Rams and the Saints, and they're just not afraid to spend money, and they're not afraid to move draft picks around.
I don't know if there's a perfect system out there, obviously. I mean, I love what the NBA does, where you can pay your guys a little bit more so that they don't leave. It's like, well, why are you going to leave? We can actually pay you more. But then you look at what baseball is doing too. Like, I like the idea of a luxury tax. You're going to spend a bunch of money, you're going to have to chip into all these other guys. But then you have a team like the Orioles, who spend, I think they're doing like $31 million as their entire payroll. There's like 6 guys in Major League Baseball that make more than the entire Orioles team. So you got to have some sort of minimum too. So when it does come to something like that, you mentioned the parity in the NFL. I think they've got that right. I think that's what makes it so exciting. You don't want to, see the same 6-8 teams in there every single year. You want to see the surprise guys, the teams that rise up. But then you look at a team like Detroit, and you're like, Lions, you just can't figure it out. Like, what's going on? You've got the same picks as everybody else. You got the same amount of money you can spend. Like, what are you guys doing wrong?
Ownership.
It's gotta be, right?
I think that's the issue more than anything else in the NFL.
They've been there
teams
forever.
That have bad ownerships, they're just always bad. And a lot of it, depends on, can they find that quarterback? But we just saw, you talked about Detroit Lions. They actually did have the quarterback.
They had it.
Proved, like, hey, I can go win. And he win the Super Bowl. They had him for 10 plus years and then make the most of it. So I think ownership and how they run the organization, that's a big thing. Hell, look, 49ers were this close from kind of being in that type of situation, right? You fire Harbaugh, so then, okay, let's go get Tom Sula. Then you fire Tom Sula, okay, let's go get Chip Kelly. Then you fire Chip Kelly, and you go get Kyle Shanahan. He loses the first 9 games as a head coach of your team. It was trending in a bad direction as well.
You're not wrong.
That's great perspective too. And we talked about the as one of our listeners pointed out, the decades of mediocrity. We were talking about 2005 when the 49ers had an 8-21 touchdown to interception ratio with their quarterbacks in 2005, but it was a lot of years of losing. And then you think about the post Harbaugh years and everything the 49ers were going through there. And now we're talking about, oh man, poor us, we don't have a first round pick, but we might have a superstar quarterback and just went to the NFC Championship game. So yeah, comparatively, things are pretty okay for the 49ers right now.
Yeah, we could be the Lions, guys. It could always be worse.
You can always be rooting for the Detroit Lions. So that's fantastic. I feel better. It was sort of a therapy. It was like a sort of an off-season, no first-round pick, first-round FOMO therapy pod. I feel a lot better. I hope the listeners feel better about that now.
I hope everybody got a chance to see Croc's QB Day, too. That was a lot of fun.
No phone calls yet? Any GMs on the horn with you setting up maybe a workout or just offering you a contract straight up, Croc?
No phone calls yet, but my agent told me stay close to the phone. Should be ringing soon.
Now's the time. Yeah.
They really liked my last throw, rolling out left, throwing left, down.
Shows the arm
to the pylon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was about 52 yards in the air.
The Crocs were in sport mode
as well.
Yeah.
You can't. That's the kind of thing you can't fake, right, Croc? Just the pure athleticism, the ball placement on some of those throws, the ability to roll left and throw right. Those are things you can't teach. You can't go fake that. This is live video, right? This wasn't edited.
He's got it on tape. Yeah, it was there live. Forever. Yeah.
It was live on YouTube. On Twitter. I will say this. If I actually, because there were some things, and he didn't even work with me really, like in between like little sessions, because my guy Greg Pinelli, quarterback coach, Central Valley, great trainer. He was working with a group of kids out here in Arkansas. So we're working in the middle of a session. I was working with the receivers. He was working with the quarterbacks. And then every once in a while, I would jump into one of their drills because I knew I had my pro day coming up, right? I would jump into one of the drills, and he would give me a few pointers. And then every once in a while, if there were like a break, he would throw a few passes to me. And he'd say, well, no, do this, do this. I mean, and it would make a huge difference. I missed a few throws early on. You could see me like one hop a throw and all that.
You're a little nervous.
But if I were able to really work with him, let's say for 2 weeks, I think I'd be drastically a different quarterback. Seriously. To where it's like, hey, Croc would be a good flag football quarterback.
Get him on your intramural squad. Let's go.
Yeah.
I did hear some rumblings that some scouts were upset because you didn't run the 40 and they questioned your athleticism.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that up to the imagination. I caught a ball at the end. I can run pretty fast enough. So just gonna leave the time.
Hand size measurement. Do we get your hand size measurement? That's important.
9.5.
9.5.
Okay. All right.
That's solid.
Yeah. Now some of the balls kind of came out a little wobbly. I think if I had slightly bigger hands, I would have been able to control the ball a little more.
Does that make you worried about Kenny Pickett's 8.5-inch hands? Like that could be a problem, right? He's like the first quarterback ever where I was like, yeah, you know what? There might actually be something to this hand size thing for him because he had to wear a glove already with the college ball and did have some fumble problems before he started wearing the glove on his throwing hand. And you're a cold weather team. I don't know. So maybe Saints moving up to get him playing in a dome.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing, though. His hand size is like the same as Mike Vick's, and Mike Vick had an absolute cannon. So
no doubt.
Mike Vick was a unicorn, though. I don't know if we can compare that, but at least there is some precedent. Like there has been a successful quarterback with tiny hands.
Successful.
Alex Smith.
Yeah, that's because that's what's crazy. The whole Alex Smith small hands thing. Alex Smith's hands were like 9 1/8 or something.
Yeah.
So this is a lot smaller than that even.
I feel like that's weird. How are you 6'4" and have small hands?
You know what's weird is Aiden Hutchinson too. He's 6'6" and he has short arms, which is really weird, right? You would think he'd have these big long arms, but he's got stubby arms for a pass rusher. They're still, he's still got long arms for a human being.
What were they?
32 inches, I think.
Yeah, it's not very long. They want 33 and up.
That was the knock on Bosa. They called Bosa a stubby pass rusher coming out because he was only 6'2", a little under 6'3", and he had 33-inch arms, and that's like the minimum that teams want. So Trent Baalke's an arm length guy. They're going to draft a 32-inch arm length pass rusher, number 1 overall. I think he's probably the best prospect, but he's pretty safe. But I don't know. I don't know if that's Baalke's type. The draft's going to get interesting, guys. It's going to get interesting, and we've got it covered for you every day from the 49ers perspective right here on Locked On 49ers. Wink, thanks for joining us here as always.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
Thanks for making us your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you go check out Crocky doing the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast daily. I'm doing Peacock and Williamson covering the entire league. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.
See you.